You're listening to Hollywood Inclusive on the Good Talk Podcast Network.
Thanks for joining Hollywood Inclusive. Hello.
Hello. What's up?
Oh my goodness. It's real. It's happening. We've finished our 4 preview episodes and this
now is the first official episode. I'm no longer sick.
Official episode. I'm glad to see you're feeling better.
So today we're going to talk about Richard Sherman, whether athletes should stand their place, and the Emmys.
We have with us a guest today. We're going to tell you all about it right after this.
Hi, everybody. My name is Lavetta Cannon, and I'm an actor, writer, and podcaster from Los Angeles, California, and I'm one of the voices of the entertainment industry. Check out my podcast, Sassy Black Friend Podcast, on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Stitcher, and please follow me on Twitter at SassyBF Podcast. Get ready for Hollywood Inclusive in 4, 3, 2.
Hollywood Inclusive.
Hollywood Inclusive.
Hollywood Inclusive. Hear all the voices.
Hello, welcome to Hollywood Inclusive. My name is Darren.
What's up, y'all? This is Kirk.
And we have with us today in the studio our very first guest.
First guest.
Hooray!
Hooray, hooray.
Insert applause noises. Welcome to the show, Yvette Vargas. She is showrunner for Dark Prophet on the Amazon. And we're very excited to have you with us. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for joining us, Yvette.
My pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
So we're just going to start right in. We're going to talk to Yvette. We're going to start talking about this.
We're gonna talk to Yvette quite a bit in segment 2.
Okay.
But we're gonna start with our story of the week, and this week it comes out of my home area, Seattle. It's the story of Richard Sherman.
Richard Sherman had a press conference today, and he didn't take any questions, and he basically, commented, on the 2 other well, we don't know if the other guy was unarmed yet because there are conflicting reports from the altercation or the whatever you want to call it in Charlotte. But 2 other black men were killed by police officers today, and Richard Sherman they had a press conference today, and he addressed it. And I do want to read just a small portion of it. And he says, I do a lot of community service. I go out there and I try to help kids, and I try to encourage them to be better and to aspire more. And when I tell a kid, when you're dealing with the police, just put your hands up and comply and everything, and there's still a chance of them getting shot and no repercussions happen for anyone, that's an unfortunate time to be living. And yeah, he's right. That is a very unfortunate time to be living when you can be stopped your car can be stopped in the middle of the street and you actually need help and you end up not alive. So Richard Sherman basically said what he had to say and talked about Kaepernick and why, Kaepernick and, and other athletes are protesting. And he sounded frustrated, and he talked about people not understanding and missing a point. And we've talked about this before, like people missing the point on purpose. So,
So before we dive into that, let's maybe take a little side tangent off of this.
Okay.
So what do you guys think, Yvette, Kirk, like some of the feedback that I see from the internet comments, which is always a dangerous thing to read.
This is true.
But I've seen people the last couple days since this has happened with sort of that attitude of like, your job is to play football. Your job is not to comment on social issues.
Yeah, but then those same people will be like, oh, Muhammad Ali. The same people will, talk about Muhammad Ali and talk about how his stand, made him an icon or made him, an activist and all these other people. But you got to think when Muhammad Ali took his stand, again, it wasn't applauded. You know what I'm saying? And so I feel like it's sort of, what show was I watching on ESPN? And they were talking about, I don't even know if Kaepernick is a quarterback anymore. He doesn't talk about football anymore. Is he even a football player anymore? All he does is talk about social justice. And I'm like, well, is he going to practice? Yes. Is he suiting up? Yes. Is he going to the games? Yes. So he's still a football player. So outside of being a football player, he's a human, and he's talking about things that affect him. So when he is if his car happens to break down on the side of the road, then he doesn't want to get shot, and he doesn't want somebody in a helicopter talking about he looked like a bad guy. So, listen, I used to work for AAA, so I feel like when people would call and when they would stop on the side of the road in the middle of the street, they are scared out of their minds. Man, woman, children, whoever, they're afraid. And so when I think about that guy's car was clearly in the middle of the street. So when, I think the officer, Betty Shelby was her name, and, she said that she thought he was on PCP. Listen, I mean, I don't necessarily know what PCP is. I don't really know any black people who do PCP either.
Right, or what that looks like. What does that even look like? What is that behavior? Yeah, what does that behavior kind of look like that she would be so sure that he was on PCP?
So I read that she's like a drug, like that's her thing.
That's
like
her specialty?
Like
Expertise?
she does that. But she did do a lot of drugs too. So you can read that about her as well. So, but that being, so when she came up on him, she assessed that he possibly was on drugs because of the way he was acting in the street. Now, if I think about it, I'm in the middle of the street. Police cars are coming down the street. Could I possibly be maybe flagging you down? Could I possibly be panicked because I'm in the middle of the street? It just bothers me on so many levels, and it makes me think about. So last week when we weren't here last week, I was sick. And the day, there was a day, and my voice was just starting to come back. And a friend of mine is a photographer, and I help him on a lot of his shoots. So we were shooting. He was shooting this guy, and I was, helping out or whatever. And a man came outside who he said he owned the apartment complex that we were shooting in. We were on the sidewalk, and he said that he owned the place and that he wanted us to leave. We probably had only been there maybe like 2 minutes. And this was a white gentleman, and he walked over to us and he was like, "Hey, you guys can't be here." And I was like, "Well, why not?" And he said, "Because you're not supposed to be here." And I was like, "So why aren't we supposed to be here? We're on the sidewalk." And he was like, "You're getting on my nerves." So I said, "You getting on my nerves. Get out of my face." I'm like, "You came and bothered us. Like, we're out here on the sidewalk and you came to bother us." So then he said, "I'm going to call the police." I said, "Well, call the police. We will sit here and take pictures while we wait for the police to come." So he stayed around. Jamal pulled out his camera so he could film everything just in case something happened. And the cops, well, I don't even think he called the cops, because he called the cops and he was like, "Hey," because he even asked the lady he was with what was the number to the police. That was the best part. I have it on video, if you do not believe me, that he said, "What is the number to the police?" So he asked the lady what the number. So when he finally figured out the number to the police, he called them, and so the person on the other end, who I'm assuming was the dispatch, I had asked him what happened, and he said, they're annoying me. And he said that we were out there and we were shooting pictures or whatever. So anyway, 30 minutes passed. We're still taking the pictures. The cops never came, but a cop came down the street. So he ran out in the street and flagged the police down to come and talk to us. So the police came and they told him that he was full of shit and that he couldn't tell us to leave off the sidewalk. And then he told us, he came to us separately, and he was like, "Hey guys, that guy's crazy. I think he's trying to shoot in front of his girlfriend." He was like, he was like, "Oh, if you guys are going to continue to take pictures here, just be careful, because this guy, I think, is a little crazy." I think he wanted to say racist, but he was very careful with his words. But he did say, after everything that had happened, he said, "Because if this guy calls the cops again, you could possibly get police that don't look like us, and I don't want that to be a problem." These two cops were Latino.
Okay.
And so to me, like, after everything that had happened,
so you had cops warn you about other cops.
Yeah, and my dad a cop. I had my dad warn me about other cops.
Yeah.
So I feel like in 2016 to hear somebody say that to my face, people know what's going on. There is no, "I don't get this," or "I don't understand why." People know what's going on. And if you don't understand it, if you are against it in whatever way, if you're against whatever Black Lives Matter, I just feel like you don't want any progress.
It's interesting you're saying that. Do you guys think we've reached a level that, there's all the talk of like, oh, the political correctness. Have we reached a kind of political correctness where you're also not allowed to say, hey, that's racist?
But see, I think that's...
Well,
go ahead.
I just want to jump in and kind of go back to your initial question, which I think was an important one, and then I want to get back to this, because just in terms of the soapbox, actually someone who has some celebrity, whether they're an athlete or whatever else they do, I think that if you're really passionate about something, you have something to say that's important, use your soapbox. Absolutely, because you will be listened to. So just going down that road, and I think your example of the football player, where people are like, is he still even playing ball anymore because he's talking about all these social issues? Let the man speak.
Now, do you think that's true of any soapbox? Because I have my sort of levels on that. I agree with you that, look, if you're trying to affect change, you want to affect change however you can affect it, right?
Yeah.
But then every once in a while, I'll hear something from like a reality TV star, and maybe that just speaks to my prejudices or something. But like, if a Kardashian wants to tell me something, nope. You don't get to talk to me. I mean, going back to,
I think if you really have something poignant to say,
right?
Yep, it's something poignant. That's like the checkpoint.
That's
then
fair.
Absolutely,
let me take back what I said.
Yeah.
The Kardashians, by all means, are welcome to say something poignant at some point.
And you also need to know, and you also actually need to know what you're talking about. And I think that's another thing. It's like, if you want to talk about race, or if you want to talk about gender, if you want to talk about these things, then you have to actually know what you're talking about. Do some research, read a book, watch the news. Well, maybe not watch the news, but actually try to learn. Go and talk to people. I just feel like, I don't know. This is so frustrating to me. This week has just been a lot, and Richard Sherman, they've been like doing these things with his interviews for years, and him not wanting to give interviews, him not wanting to do press conferences.
That's Marshawn Lynch.
Marshawn Lynch, shit. Never mind. You're gonna take that out.
No. Well,
right.
I don't edit.
It's
anyway,
all good.
No. It's fair. It's because they do press conferences together.
Right. Yes,
sometimes, so it's easy to conflate them. And and Marshawn Lynch is the one who says, "I'm a football player. I shouldn't have to talk about these things." And Richard Sherman is kind of the opposite.
Right.
He's like,
exactly. Right.
And Richard Sherman is a Stanford-educated, brilliant dude with a point of view on these issues.
Right, but it just even makes it more powerful that he's like chosen this opportunity to actually speak.
Right.
So clearly that's why he's even gotten more attention. But the man had something to say.
Right. And what do you think about the idea of like, I'm making this statement and therefore I'm going to disrupt what we normally do? The press conference isn't going to happen. This is the press conference that I've chosen, to make this statement today.
I'm with it.
Yeah, I'm
with it.
I'm totally fine with it. The whole thing is that he obviously didn't want to get bombarded with a billion questions, especially stupid questions or the same question that's asked again and again and again in different ways. Because we've all heard that, right? And we've all even experienced that ourselves, where people will ask you the same question over and over again until they get the answer that they want. Mm-hmm. They will keep asking that question. So he just he didn't want that.
Well, and in sports too, there's constantly that sort of like, well, today is a game that we just really have to come out and play the kind of football that we know how to play. And I think if we all perform on all cylinders and give it our best, then we're...
It's like, so yeah, you're going to come this again.
Right. And maybe he just couldn't, in an emotional week like this one, go through those motions.
Right. And I mean,
can't blame a man for that.
He started out talking about football a little bit.
He gave them their soundbite.
Yeah, he started out talking about football, but I just... in this thing that athletes need to stay in the athlete's place and all this stuff, I just think that that's bullshit. It's like, you don't want to hear, especially if they're saying something that I think that
it's important.
And that people need to hear. For you to tell them to stay in the athlete's place, that tells me that you don't see them as anything except an athlete.
Exactly.
And listen, I can go on about that because I feel like, with this guy, Terrence Crusher, them calling him a bad guy from the helicopter, and I think that a lot of these tragedies are happening is because the way we are, black people, black men, black women are perceived, and that they go into these certain things thinking this person is a bad guy. So you like, oh, you think this person's a bad guy? Of course you're gonna draw your gun out at him, and so Listen, I'm a sigh a lot today.
Yeah, I mean, and even even the whole thing, even if he was on PCP, it doesn't mean the man's going to kill you.
That should make it easier to apprehend
that's really,
him, right?
Yeah,
Without
and
getting hurt
that's really
yourself.
the whole thing. It's
And
like,
the thing is, you didn't find out he was on PCP because they said it was in his truck. Also, they said they found it in his truck, but you wouldn't know that until after he was shot, and you didn't not try to help him. And I saw people talking about, well, look at the way he was walking away from her. But I mean, he looked like he had his hands in the air. They had their guns out, and he was like, "Okay, people, I'm gonna go to my car." But some people say, there's a whole thing about, when police tell you to do something, and Richard Sherman did say it, when I tell you to do something, just put your hands up. But that is not even working anymore. And people always do this thing where they're like, well, why didn't they just listen to the cop? Or they are, people of color or black people are so angry against the cops. So people don't even understand like the relationship that we've had with the police for 400 years. And for the majority of that time, it has not been good. And the majority of that time, it has been state sanctioned. You know what I'm saying? So like, we just got rights and 64, 65, you know what I'm saying? So like there were cops like out saying you can't go into this restaurant. That was like 40, 50 years ago. And some of these people have kids who are cops and family that are cops. So I'm so over these people. I'm so tired of people making excuses for this. Like I drove here by myself. If my car stops on the side of the highway, I should be scared of getting hit by another car, not being shot by another cop. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
Like
Yeah,
I
for
shouldn't be
sure.
afraid of that. Like I should not. When you come up to help me, and that's what I was talking about. I was talking about on Twitter. Like I think that people think like black people are like these superhuman beings who like grow when police come and we turn into Incredible Hulk and we like charge at them and like run through bullets. Because we've heard this story, like we grow like a couple of feet, we get big, we like bust out our clothes and we charge at somebody holding a gun. Like what sense does that make? And we hear this narrative over and over and over again. And it's like people do not think that we're human. Like we are scared of the cops. Like I am afraid of a cop, and my father is a police officer, and he also told me to be afraid of certain police officers. So it's like they're just like there are good and bad people, there are good and bad cops. But people people cannot be afraid to speak out against police officers that are bad, and people cannot be afraid to speak out for police reform, which is what Richard Sherman is doing and Kaepernick are doing. People just want shit to change so that when we driving down the street, we're not worried about getting shot by a cop who every week you take $2,000 out of my check for me to pay your taxes. So no, pay your check. You take $2,000. You take taxes out of my check to pay your salary. Yeah, there we go.
So we got Kirk definitely not afraid to use his soapbox tonight. Much appreciated. Thank you for that. Yvette, you had a thought about the question on political correctness, and if we've gotten to a place where you can't even call racist on somebody.
For sure. I mean, I'm as being a woman and a Latina person. A person of color, I very much on a personal level understand this conversation. It's definitely a little bit of a different conversation for Latinos on average than African Americans, but certainly there is a very similar narrative that we're talking about here, and it's basically non-white. It's a non-white conversation where there's a difference when it comes to law enforcement, or there can be a difference when there comes to law enforcement, amongst many other things. But in particular, because we're talking about the police, and it's just, there are just these biases. There are just these biases. So if you see a person of color, the gun, gets put in the hand. You know what I mean? As opposed to not having a dialogue first, right? Not approaching that person and having a conversation first. The gun is in the hand. So it's just a different kind of There's just a different action that's taken, or actions that are taken because it's a person of color.
Right.
So and we just unfortunately it's the truth. We see this time and time again.
People think we are making it up, even when they watch the video. People think that it's like, well, because I think in people's minds they don't want to believe that police would do anything wrong.
I mean, it's a disconnect, right? It's a cognitive dissonance that that a person who is supposed to fundamentally, as part of their job, be a capital G good guy, is,
well, and protecting everyone, protecting everyone equally.
Exactly.
Right.
And that's really the gray area, and it's because they're just biases that are built in, and then but then if we look at the correctional system, there are just so many people in the correctional system that, sure, they made a mistake, they made a small mistake, and because they didn't have the money,
They didn't have the money to
proper,
get the right lawyer.
yeah, exactly, the proper representation. Then they just fall deeper and deeper and deeper down that hole, and then they do become criminals, or whatever the case may be. And there's just so much more of that actually people of color
People
are
want the
victims of.
same chances that Ryan Lochte got. Like, people want to be able to get away with shit just like Ryan Lochte did, and say, you know what, I did something wrong, I'm gonna get a pat on the back. We don't get a pat on the back, we get a bullet in the back or a bullet in the head. That is the difference. And I wish that people would, and yes, this is a bit of an exaggeration in the Ryan Lochte thing, but it's the thing where we see so many people who are given a second chance, or who are given the benefit of the doubt, who get tased, and we just don't get that shit. And it is mind-boggling, and it is tiring, and I'm sweating right now.
Yeah.
All right, so we're going to have to leave it there. And I wish I could say that I believed that this will be the last time that we're going to talk about this. Hopefully change happens. I don't know where it's going to come from. Maybe you listening, you know the answer, and you can go change something. That's my hope for today. Hey, do you listen to audiobooks? That's what I do in my car to make commutes go better. I don't know anybody who reads actual books anymore. I love doing audiobooks, and booksfree.com provides you essentially the Netflix of audiobooks. You get free shipping, there's no due dates, you can cancel anytime, but then meanwhile you can have them send you audiobooks and listen to them all in one service. And right now you can get it 50% off. So go to goodtalknetwork.com, go up to the top, click on ads, you'll find a banner for booksfree.com, and you'll be supporting this podcast as well. So we want to introduce you to our guest. Today with us is Yvette Vargas. I'm going to run through your bio a little bit. You are originally from the Bronx. You are an NYU graduate who then went on to get an MFA at UCLA in screenwriting and showrunning. You wrote, produced, directed. You're the showrunner for the digital series Dark Prophet, starring Henry Rollins, which you got a couple Emmy nominations for.
Thank you.
Check you out in the interactive category. Right on. And congratulations, by the way, for the fact that last month you started, that got picked up by Amazon.
Thank you.
That's available via Amazon Prime now. You were named by the New York Times as an artist to watch. You are the CEO of Digital Rain, a multi-platform media production company that produces content across television, virtual reality, mobile apps, social media, comics, games, film. What don't you do, Yvette?
Well, it's all about story. It all begins with a story, and story first, medium, and platform second. And
right.
that's really where I come from. And there's some stories that they just work in different. They work better in different formats than television or film. Some of the traditional, they're just better as a game. They're better as a comic book. It's better as a social media piece of content. But it's really all about story first.
How do you decide which stories are better for which sort of platform that you do? Is there a thing, or is it just sort of like a job?
Yeah, no. I mean, going back to the story and really breaking it down, and then also just like with any medium and platform, the whole thing about any medium and platform is knowing the rules of that medium, right? So, like you work in television, so there are rules, right? There are rules to the language of storytelling in television.
Right.
There are rules to the language of storytelling in feature films. There are rules to the language of digital series. So as a storyteller, you have to understand the different rules of the mediums, and then once you actually come up with an idea, something that you're really passionate about, and you want to tell that story, then it's really about really looking at how best can I express this story to premiere it to the world. Because then once you actually get it out there and you start building an audience and monetizing and everything else, then if the idea really has legs, then there are opportunities to expand that story over different mediums and platforms.
Right.
But in terms of like that first major medium, the story really lets you decide what that is, but you have to be really you have to really understand the different rules of the different mediums and platforms.
So like, what do you, for me, and Darren and I were talking about this before, because I think that there is a difference in between like being an artist and being like a content creator. Like for me, like I'm a writer. Like I write. I don't.
Right.
Now that I'm writing, I'm starting to get into producing, because as a TV writer, depending on what shows you're on, you get to produce your own episodes.
Exactly.
But like I don't do, sketch series. I haven't done like digital media series. So like, how do you separate the two, or do you think they're one and the same? Like,
I think they're one and the same. For myself, I mean, I've been an artist my entire life. I grew up drawing, painting, and writing short stories. Like that, visual storytelling. That's all I have ever done, and that's all that I still do.
Right.
It's always that, and it's a very artistic. It comes from inside, from the heart, from the passion, and it's all artistic expressions. So I very much consider myself an artist, first of all and foremost. What I think maybe speaks to, from a content creator. Okay, so going back to you just said, okay, so I'm a writer. Yes, there are some people that are just purely writers, and that's it. And then there are people that are writer creators, and there is a clear distinction in that.
Right.
And the clear distinction is that again, some people are just great writers, but that's really all that they do is write. They don't really have the aspiration, or they don't necessarily even have the ideas to be a creator, and
Right.
also the drive to take that idea and produce a product.
Right.
So there is a clear distinction in that, just a pure writer versus a writer creator, and then even in television, a writer creator producer. But it's still all artistic and creative. It is coming from that. What adds like the different layers of nuances is the business, and the rules of the business. And the more that you understand the business, that can inform how you're going to craft that piece that you're writing or producing, because obviously it's all about getting it sold and getting it out there, distributing it to the largest audience and everything else. But I personally think that it all comes from a very artistic, creative place.
So let's talk a little bit about Dark Prophet. You were writer, producer, director on that. Was that something that you knew you were going to make yourself from the beginning? Was it something that you sat down and wrote and then found a way for it to get made? What was the story?
Yeah, I know, it's a really interesting story. So my undergrad is NYU, Tisch. I studied directing and film and television production at NYU. But then once I actually moved to LA, just to back up a little bit. So my senior thesis film from NYU ended up winning the Best of NYU, and it got me a lot of buzz, and that's what got me out to LA.
Nice.
Okay.
And then once I got to LA, I had all of these digital storytelling skills as well as traditional storytelling skills, because I have a whole background with, as I mentioned, I grew up drawing and painting and writing short stories, and that the drawing and the painting, that brought me to graphic design, which then evolved into interactive design, which then evolved into video game design, and also like writing video games and everything else. So for me, it's always been like this very kind of holistic collaboration between traditional skills and digital skills in terms of storytelling. So once I got to LA, I basically started working at the digital departments at the studios. Universal, Sony, Disney, you pretty much name it. And then I have the New York hustle. I work 24/7, so I freelanced everywhere. I freelanced everywhere. I mean, and for like record labels and video game companies.
Can I stop you on record labels?
Yeah.
So
go for it.
I was doing a little research. So you created a video game. Make sure I'm saying this right. With the Wu-Tang Clan.
Yes.
So did Capitol Records like ask you to do that, or was that something that you came up with and brought that to Capitol Records?
Okay, so basically, so Capitol Records was a client of my company.
Okay.
And so Wu-Tang, they had they were dropping a new record, and they wanted some digital content to really go along with it, something that was just really hot to be able to push that record
Right.
Online. And I basically pitched them doing 2 music videos, animated music videos, as well as creating a game. So I had the account was my company account.
Right.
But I pitched them these ideas,
Nice.
and they absolutely loved it, and we obviously went with it. And the video game, and it was like so ahead of its time. It was done in Flash. I used to be this Flash expert, totally like high end, really immersive, interactive.
Were you sad when Apple killed it?
You know what's really crazy? Like there was a time where there was not like a minute of my life that I wasn't working in Flash or doing something in Flash or thinking about something in Flash, and now
It was the bee's knees.
it really really was. And now it's like I can't even remember the last time that I launched the program. It's kind of crazy. Like the only Flash that comes into my life these days if I have to download the latest freaking update. That's about it.
Right.
And it's just insane. But Flash, as we all know, really was the shit, right? And it really was. So I used to create these like really high end Flash interactive story telling like content, right? So it's like for Wu-Tang, literally created 2 animated music videos completely in Flash, and those videos did really really well on their own. And then the game was all done in Flash, and there was a single player and a multiplayer level of that.
Right.
And so the game really kicked ass and did really really well.
Nice. When I saw that, I was like, I have to ask her. I was like, I have to ask her about Wu-Tang, because to me that was like I was like, what? Like what you did this? And I was like, oh, okay, well maybe Capitol Records, so that makes sense. Like they were a client of your company, so that is
definitely
that is so cool to me.
Yeah, it really was, and it was just a really exciting project to work on, and they just were not even anticipating for me to go back and pitch these 2, to do these 2 animated music videos and this video game. They were just blown away, and they were so on board.
Nice. So that was a few years ago, and so then now, and so how is it different like from what you were doing back then, and sort of like being like a multimedia designer, and what you do now?
Oh yeah. So I was always writing. And then running my company. So just to like fill in a little bit of the blank from me working at the digital departments of the studios. So after a couple of years of doing that, I built up a really great list of contacts in the business and all different kinds of media. So my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, who like made the pilgrimage over from the East Coast with me to the West Coast.
Good guy.
Yes, absolutely,
right there. Good guy.
absolutely, great guy. So we started our company, Digital Reign, REIGN, which is a multi-platform production company. So then for several years after that, we were creating all of this digital original content for a television series or a feature or a video game or for an artist or for a record label, comic books, you pretty much name it. And but then after a couple of years of doing that, I just didn't have time to finish my own scripts, finish my stories, and I'm very much a creator. Like I am constantly developing ideas. So my ideas were piling up, and I just didn't have time to fully develop them and finish my scripts. So I decided I knew that I had to switch my life up a bit. So I decided to go back to school. That's when I went to UCLA. I went there for the showrunner track because I really wanted to learn television, and at the time they had a 2-year concentration in television, but the only way to get to the showrunner track was through the screenwriting department. So I applied and obviously got in there, which was great, and then I got into the showrunner track, which was fantastic. So this was in 2008, and this was, The Sopranos had just gone off the air. 6 Feet Under was winding down. The Shield, The Shield had already gone off, but really, had hit a high point in terms of like another level of television. So I just knew, I knew in 2008 that we were in this new golden age of television. Actually, before it was, the phrase was coined again for it. And I really wanted to sink my teeth into television and be a creator, a writer, creator, producer in television. So, so I went to UCLA. So what happened, though, was before I graduated, which was in 2012, my undergrad, NYU Tisch, they have a thriving alumni association here in LA. And every couple of years, they hold their own digital series lab, very much the way that Sundance holds their digital series lab.
Okay.
So they did a call of submissions from all of their alumni, and they received over 3,000 submissions. I submitted Dark Prophet, and for the submission process, you had to write a pilot and create a show Bible, and it was a 6-month commitment in this lab, and you were going to create 3 episodes. So Dark Prophet ended up becoming one of the 10 semifinalists of this lab, and then I ended up winning that. And
nice.
It really was pretty amazing. I was blown away. It was pretty amazing. And the judges for that competition were NBC Universal television executives who really loved it. And then that led to me getting a production grant from NBC Universal. So I kept making episodes. And this was like the tail end of 2013. So Sundance had heard about me and the project, and they wanted to see it. So, of course, I screened it for them. And so then Dark Prophet went from this NYU Tisch alumni lab. It ended up premiering at Sundance in 2014. And then there were DirecTV television executives that were at Sundance who saw it, and they really connected with it. So then my digital series ended up going from Sundance to a DirecTV channel, all 11 episodes, and then it did really well there. And because it was on television, that's when it was nominated for 2 Emmys in the interactive category. I lost to Game of Thrones, but I can live with that. And
That's fair. That's fair.
And now
you need more nakedness and disemboweling.
There you go. And now it's on Amazon Prime, and I'm also creating now the virtual reality series, which is going to premiere on the Sony PlayStation VR, and also it's going to premiere on LEVR, which is the largest virtual reality platform in China. And then I am also in the process of, I'm going to start pitching it as a 1 hour. So it's just been it's really been an IP, right? A piece of IP. It's absolutely a multi-platform IP that has had its own momentum from the very beginning, and it's just done really, really well for itself.
So I do want you to let I know people can go and look online themselves, but I do want people to tell people a little bit about what Dark Prophet is about.
Sure.
And then also, I know there's a comic book, and then
Yes.
there's also the series, and kind of explain why there's both. And which did you do first?
Yeah, well, the digital series. Definitely did the digital series first. The comic book. The comic book, let's see, started working on that, I guess, about 2 years ago. And as I mentioned, I'm currently working on the virtual reality series. But, so Dark Prophet, it's a sci-fi action thriller, present-day sci-fi action thriller set in Los Angeles. And it's basically about a music and math genius who creates music mathematically the way that Mozart did, and he crunches numbers in his head the way that Good Will Hunting did. Mm-hmm. And he is a grad school student, and there is a corporation that comes to him and gives him math formulas to turn into songs for his senior thesis project. So while he's doing that, and over the course of the year, in the math codes, he actually finds a hidden cipher, and he cracks that master code, and he deciphers all of these math formulas, and he discovers that these math formulas are actually encrypted with government top secrets that he's been turning into songs, giving back to this corporation, and this corporation has been trading these songs with hidden top secrets in them so under the radar through music.
Right.
Through music. And those top secrets are basically missions that will trigger World War III, and that this corporation is actually just a front for a government agency that is acting rogue. because they want to take over the planet through cyber intelligence. So our music and math genius, whose name is Dave Shepard, he makes this discovery. The agency finds out that he's onto them. They go after him. He escapes, and he eludes them and escapes. And then the agency basically they kill his girlfriend. They murder his girlfriend and frame him for it. So now he's forced to go underground and become the musical artist known as Dark Prophet. And through his own music, which he does crazy coding to. So the coding is like, it's all about this agency and how we're going to stop them. So the people that listen to his music, and he also codes an app. So if you listen to his music, the app will literally like translate the secrets that are encrypted in his own songs. So it's like it's a call to action to his peeps, people in club culture, tech culture, pop culture that listen to his music. He's building his own army to stop this agency from taking over the world. So that's what it's about.
Very nice.
Nice.
Everybody should check it out. So, Yvette, I wanted to ask too, as if you aren't busy enough with all the things you just described, right? You're also involved in all the guilds. You're in the Television Academy. You are the vice chair of the Latino Writers Committee at the WGA. You are a workshop mentor for the Producers Guild Power of Diversity program. What kind of drives you to, like I say, you're doing so much. What's the motivation to make sure that you're also doing those activities?
Yes, well, and this actually speaks to some of the things we were talking about in the first segment. So so definitely as a Latina and a woman in the business, there just aren't that many of me. So I'm in a position where I do have a soapbox, and I don't want to be on this very short list. I want to bring many, many more people along with me that also deserve the opportunity. And right. It's just harder for women, and it's just harder for people of color, and certainly it's harder for Latinas and Latinos in general. So I am driven because it's really the right thing to do. I mean, and I'm one of the few people that could actually do it. So, and I am a disruptor. I will tell you, I am a disruptor in this particular space. Like, and just to give you an example, I'm extremely active in the WGA. I basically come up with initiatives and programs and events that will place a writer and a Latino writer in front of a buyer, a hirer, or a creator. And so like just to give you an example, an idea, I've created these meet and greet events, which are basically 4 back-to-back 20-minute general meetings with a top television executive or a top showrunner or a top someone in development that could actually buy your pitch.
Right.
And these events have been incredibly successful. There's no middleman. It's just the writer and someone on the other side of the table that could hire them.
Nice.
And there's like a whole vetting process.
That's
where,
how the world should be, right there. By the way.
Yes, absolutely.
There doesn't need to be 17 people in the middle, any of whom could say no.
Exactly. So, as I said, the success of these events has just been off the charts.
I love that.
I basically ask. There's a questionnaire that I send to all of the executives and the showrunners that participates, literally asking them what they're looking for, and then the writers are vetted to match the needs of what they're looking for. So lightning continues to strike because it's the right writers in front of the right, someone that can do something with them.
Right.
And really, so the results have been off the charts, and now that particular event in that format, which I created, has now become a mandate at the Guild for other diversity committees as well as other committees in general. So these events have just like everybody knows about them at the Guild. It's just become a really huge thing, and I'm also in the process of creating a showrunner mentorship program for again Latino writers. I mean, that's my committee, so it's always going to start from the Latino Writers Committee, and then other committees will then do their own version, and then also talking about podcasts. We're creating again something that I proposed is creating a podcast series of our work. So literally, like every month, a new episode will come out, and it will feature 5 writers 5 writers that are that have a scene. It's like a 3-minute or so scene from a pilot or a screenplay or a digital series or what have you. But it's definitely a larger piece, and each episode, like the way that those writers are organized, it's either by genre or by theme or by a subject matter that ties those episodes, those scenes together to create this very polished episode with professional actors voicing these scenes and a narrator, and
Right.
just really well produced, and then going wide to the industry with this piece of content, entertaining content to get our voices and our work out there.
Right.
So this is something new, a new initiative that I'm putting together, and everyone's really, really excited about. So
Awesome.
as I mentioned, it's really about rethinking what's not working, and causing the disruption to get results.
Nice. All right, so we're going to take a quick break, and then we'll come back with more from Yvette.
Darren, what do you use to write your screenplays with?
Screenplay software. I recently did a survey. I'm this kind of nerd. I check out all software to maximize which one's the best. And I honestly tried every screenwriting software, and I came back to Final Draft.
So you guys can go to the writer's store and you can get your copy of the, Final Draft 10?
Final Draft 10 is out now, and it's on sale until September 30th.
So all you have to do is go to goodtalknetwork.com, click ads, and look for the banner that says Writer's Store Final Draft 10. All right, so we're back with Yvette Vargas. And I think I want to talk about you going to the Emmys. So let's talk about the Emmys.
You got it. Yeah. I mean, okay. So yes, the Emmys that were on Sunday. It's actually my 3rd time that I have attended the Emmys, and it's different every single time. And it really truly is this magical day. It's a long magical day. It's pretty much like a 12-hour day, but it goes in just so incredibly fast. And but I mean, there are lots of things that that I love about it. I mean, and number one is that everybody's there, right? Everybody that you know or you think or that you want to know is there. So you want to take advantage of that. So it's always just a great opportunity to foster relationships that continue to foster relationships that you already have. Obviously, establish new ones, and to let people know always what you have going on now and what you want to be going on, because again, everybody's there. So it's just a really great time. Everybody looks good. Everybody's in a great mood. And everybody, is really there to socialize and party and just make connections. So, I mean, I will tell you, it's really interesting. Like the first year that I went, I saw most of the show, right? I saw most of the show. Sat in the theater and saw most of the show. Mm-hmm. The second year, I think I saw 5 minutes of the show. I was in the lobby the entire time, talking, meeting people and everything else. And then, this year I saw about maybe 20 minutes of the show. And again, I was in the lobby talking. But it just goes so incredibly fast. Like the only reason why I know that time is passing is because my feet start hurting more and more throughout the course of the night, because you guys, heels, really, I mean, they look great.
They're not for 12 hours.
But no, they're not for 12 hours. So it's kind of killer. Like that for me is my barometer of like how long I have been on my feet. But it really it's a tremendous time, especially if you really are passionate about television. It's truly the place to be, and just again, if you really want to meet somebody and make a connection on a very personal level, because it's a short list. I mean, it is a short kind of list in terms of people who are there for that particular event. So everybody knows that it's something special. So you really do have an opportunity to make a real connection with people,
right? Because
of that. And so I mean, I can't say enough. I feel really fortunate and gifted and blessed, to be able to go.
Were there any, I know you didn't see much of the show, but were there any highlights for you in terms of either the ceremony or just your experience this year?
God, yeah. Well, I met Rami Malek from Mr.
Nice.
Robot.
Nice.
Yeah.
Pre or post? Was he carrying a statue around with him?
This was post. This was like right after he won.
Okay.
So he had the statue in his hand, but this
Nice.
was before it was engraved. So, and he really was shocked. He really. I mean, it was overwhelming. For him in the best. The best possible way,
Right.
obviously. So it was wonderful, meeting him and also Sam Esmail, who created that show, because I really think that season 1 of Mr. Robot was just incredibly magical and just something so fresh that we really haven't seen, and with a voice that we just had not heard. So season 2 I can't really say that for, but season 1 absolutely set a high bar in
Right.
terms of something new and fresh. So it was just really wonderful to meet the two of them. And I mean, that wasn't necessarily the highlight, because the whole experience of going, it's just like a kind of like you're in it and it's like, all kind of lumped together.
Right.
But it was, pretty great meeting them. And, and I just recently sold the show. So it was great to share that with them.
Oh, well, that's
So
what
you-
I was. Sorry.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was going to say the sort of what's next for you. You just sold a show, and I know you got a few irons in the fire. What's kind of the next Yvette project?
Yeah. Well, yeah, thanks. So I sold the show to Turner Broadcasting Super Deluxe, and so it's basically like TNT. And so right now I'm working on that pilot, and what's really fantastic is that there's a pilot production commitment, so they're going to produce that pilot. And
drama?
It's a 1 hour drama. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a 1 hour drama. It's called Muses, and it's basically set in the New York art world. So I'm obviously really, really excited about that. And and today I was deep in writing that. So so that's like another muscle in a way, right? When you kind of go into these, go down the rabbit hole and you're writing, and then you come out of that, and it's like, oh wow, the rest of the world is here.
I have to talk to humans
Yeah,
again?
exactly. Talk to humans and
I don't get to
and form
control what they say.
sentences. Yes, exactly, and form comprehensive and complete sentences that I'm
Right.
not reading out loud to myself off of a page and everything else. But so I'm working on Muses, and then I'm also developing a show with El Rey Network. So so I'm really excited about that, and that's actually it's like a sports drama.
Okay.
So set in the world of parkour.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
El Rey has From Dusk Till Dawn, right?
They have From Dusk Till Dawn.
Okay.
And actually their biggest show is Luche, which is basically like the Mexican wrestling world.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's actually their most popular scripted series.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's so many channels.
Yeah, there's so many channels, so many bars. But that's the great opportunity for a
but
creator.
that's great. Yeah.
For a creator,
I'm not complaining.
this is the time because look, you guys, we know it is a law of averages. You need to knock on many doors to get that yes.
And when there's 10 times as many doors.
It makes it a little bit easier for us.
Yeah, exactly.
Just a little bit easier for us.
But there's also 10 times as many shows that you have to keep up on in order to be able to knock on those doors.
This is true because you want to know how to make noise, right? How your show will stand out over the 400 plus scripted shows that are on the air. You definitely need to come to be able to know what's out there and be able to come up with something develop something that's different and fresh, and won't get lost in the muddle out there.
Right on. So we have 2 final questions for you, Yvette, and we're going to make these kind of our standard every guest questions.
Every guest question.
And the first one is, how do you think that your background affects the stories that you choose to tell?
Great question.
We thought we'd go with like a really difficult
Yes.
Thought we go with like
essay-style
the kind of
question.
essay
that-
questions they give you when you're applying to programs and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, this is definitely the essay question. Well, and I answer this question all the time actually, because I do get asked this, and certainly just because as a writer or creator, I'm out there pitching constantly, and what am I pitching? I'm pitching my voice, right? As a writer, I'm pitching my voice, and what is my voice? It is an American Puerto Rican woman, in the business, and it's like my point of view is very much that I'm American first and very proud of that, but I have this Latino lens that is part of it. So my stories, and because I come from large cities like New York, the melting pot. Now I live in LA, the melting pot. My stories, everything that I write represents the melting pot, and which is a truism,
Right.
and there's an authenticity of the people in the country. So my stories aren't necessarily like a Latino story, or some immigrant story, or anything like that, per se. But really like where my voice comes in and my point of view, because I'm this Latina American woman, is literally through the point of view of my characters that are diverse,
Right.
and represent that point of view of those characters within this story that I'm passionate about. So that is what I'm constantly writing and constantly incorporating in my work, because then I think, well, I truly believe that I'm getting at the themes, really hitting the themes hard from the different points of view of the melting pot that we call America.
Mm-hmm.
Fantastic. Thank you. And then that takes us to our second essay-style question, which is...
Damn.
No, you handled that one so brilliantly.
Right. Wait, am I supposed to ask the question? Because I don't remember.
You don't have to. I got it.
Okay.
The second question is, if somebody were moving to LA today and they wanted your career, what advice would you give such a person?
Or your career trick.
My career trip.
Right.
Okay,
If they wanted to do what you do.
Yes. You really have to be practicing your craft. So, for myself, again, I'm really fortunate that I've been an artist forever, and I have a lot of different kinds of creative skills between drawing, painting, and writing, and of course producing, and I know every aspect of, from taking an idea to producing the final product, like here's the show, or here's the comic book, or here's the video game. So I just know how to deliver a final product. But really, what I would say is practice your craft.
Right.
Because everything starts from that, and everything starts and ends with that. So if you want to be a writer, you just need to be writing. You have to be reading produced scripts, and you have to be writing. I mean, that's really what I would say is read and write, so that you can learn. And then and if you're interested in multi-platform, more of expanding that story and telling it across different mediums and platforms, learn the rules of storytelling on different mediums and platforms, so that therefore you can really tell your story and take advantage of the opportunities for that. And then with virtual reality storytelling, which I'm very much involved in, and with my whole background, it was just a very natural and organic evolution for me. And for the last 3 years, I've really been focused as a storyteller and a writer. Like my question all the time is, how do I write a story, a scripted narrative story in VR, and how do I direct that, and how do I produce that?
Right.
So, right now I'm one of the few storytellers that's coming from a scripted point of view in the space, and I have been learning the rules of the medium, and the rules of the medium are unfolding every single day, because there's a lot of experimentation, but it's pretty amazing. I work in both 360 video as well as CG. So I, myself, I'm a student of that medium, and
Everybody is at this point.
Yeah,
I mean, you're talking
exactly.
about you're working in technologies that are years old. Like,
Exactly.
You go back to the
Exactly.
beginning of the century, and people wouldn't, or the beginning of the decade, and people would not know what you're talking about because it didn't exist. I mean,
Exactly.
virtual reality, yeah, we sort of, we all saw Lawnmower Man. We get the idea.
I
Right.
forgot about Lawnmower Man. I remember that shit.
Right. Exactly. But then the question is like, okay, so how can I create it, and how can
Right.
how can I take advantage of this new medium? And for me, it's just so exciting. One of the things that I love is that the audience member is literally in it and along for the ride from their own first person experience inside this piece of content, this story that I'm passionate about telling. And because they're actually in it and living it, right? When you have a headset on and you're fully immersed inside of a movie, of an episode, of a short, a piece of content in virtual reality, you're in that. You're living that. The audience member is living that, and therefore like creating their own memories of being in that space as my narrative is unfolding. I just think that's incredible. And we're just like so tapping the surface and of where that's going to go. And as a storyteller, I mean, my God, why wouldn't I want people living inside of my stories and feeling that and dreaming about that and having their own memories? So
that's fantastic. I mean, and I mean, that's some great advice. And frankly, I'm kind of inspired right now. So, so thank you very much for that.
Thank you so much.
Oh, my pleasure.
We really appreciate your time. How can people find you out there in social media and on the internet? People listening to you and they're like, I've been meaning to hire a multi-platform artist.
Cool. Thanks. I'm easy to find. So on Twitter, it's at Vargas Girl. So that's pretty simple. Vargas Girl. And on Facebook, just Yvette Vargas there. Again, pretty easy to find. And then also on Instagram, I'm Vargas GRL 23. So you can start there.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time, Yvette.
Thank you so much, Yvette.
Really appreciate you.
Thanks for having me. You guys are great.
Cool.
Thank you.
If you're looking for t-shirts, aprons, hats, fake mustaches, wigs, and anything else from your favorite television show, visit the TV store where you can get a Heisenberg mustache that you can wear for Halloween. All you have to do is go to Good Talk Network, click the ads, go look for TV store, and there you have it. All right, so we started off a little dark or realistic, I guess, but we're going to do a little hooray for Hollywood.
Good job, Hollywood.
Good job. So we're going to talk about the Emmys. We're going to talk about the Emmys. The Emmys were Sunday. Yes, Sunday at 5 p.m. What are we on? Pacific time. Yes. So it was and they were good.
Well, the headline from the Daily Beast was Emmy 2016 awards, the most diverse Emmys ever. Period. Finally. Period.
Yeah, man, like it's like a sad hooray for Hollywood. It's like this is the most diverse Emmys ever. How what number are we on in the Emmys again?
Yeah, 68-year history, it says here.
Yes, but I do want to, first of all, say congratulations to Regina King, who is on American Crime. Shout out for winning second year in a row. That was great. People don't know, she was filming The Leftovers at the same time.
And if I must say so, kicking ass on both shows.
Both shows, because she could have been nominated for both.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because the
and honestly, and no offense to you.
It's all good. I'm not tripping because I know you're going to talk about the Carrie Coon and
the episode the Regina King episode of The Leftovers, and I think anybody who watches the show knows what I'm talking about.
Without spoiling anything, it is amazing.
I don't have to say anything about what it was about. It there is an episode, if you haven't watched The Leftovers,
season 2 of Leftovers,
where the camera is on her in medium close-up for about, 45 minutes straight. and
just
she
2 people
owns it. She holds that camera. It's amazing.
It's amazing. So
full respect to her American Crime performance is also amazing, but damn, that Leftovers.
Yeah. And maybe it was the thing where people were like, you are amazing in both shows. You were nominated for one. Let's give it to you.
Right.
Whatever. She deserved it. She was great in both shows.
And in her category on that show. So,
yes.
Damn. I also have to say Julia Louis-Dreyfus for shattering the record in her category for passing Mary Tyler Moore and I'm forgetting is it Carol Burnett? It's probably Carol Burnett. I'm not sure.
You know better than I do.
Well, so she has won, I think, 7 times.
5 in a row now, right?
And if you think about it, this is the thing that impresses me, because having a career in the entertainment industry is ridiculously hard.
Yeah, and she's had, this is her like third show, right?
This is her third show she's won an Emmy on.
Right, because the New Adventures of Old Christine, I remember that, and then there's Veep, and then there was Seinfeld. Right? Yeah.
So it was Best Supporting on Seinfeld.
Right.
And then I assume Best Actress on the latter two.
Right.
So she is now the most awarded comedy actress like ever, and I think because she's quasi mainstream, we sort of tend to forget just what a talent she is. So. There's my praise in my genre as well.
I mean, there were the nominees. You know, this was to me one of the best years just from a nominee perspective, because there were a lot of shows that are now gone. So those sometimes returning people, we didn't get to see this year, which was actually really refreshing. A lot of new talent. I won't say young talent, but people that we haven't seen at the Emmys won this week.
Well, and the interesting thing I saw was people are kind of marking this as the death of the anti-hero. That those kinds of shows either are off the air, or that we're seeing nominees out of things like not Breaking Bad, obviously, but Better Call Saul,
right?
But nobody up on stage. That it's now switching genres a little bit.
Right. Do you watch Mr. Robot?
I saw the pilot.
See, but I guess
I'll get there.
Right.
Amazing.
I mean, I don't know if he's not like. Would you? I mean, he's not an anti-hero in the sense that we've seen in the past, but he's still like, you know what I'm saying? He's not what I would. I'm trying to think of I can't think of something off the top of my head.
This is why I was about to say we're leaving the anti-hero and now we're going to, and then I kind of trailed off because I'm not really sure what that means we're landing on.
What are we writing?
Yeah.
What are we writing?
Yeah. Well, and to come back to comedy, the other in the diversity article that we're pointing at, that we'll have in the show notes, it mentions the win for Aziz Ansari and Alan Yang.
For Master of None.
For Master of None, which goes to, within the season itself, goes to subjects of inclusion in the show. So he really drills into what it's like being a person of color auditioning in Hollywood, and what it's like to, go in for the role that specifically calls out that you're an Indian actor, and to go sit in the room full of, Indian actors in town and say, hey, how's it going again? To the guys that you see every time one of those roles comes up. He does an amazing job of portraying that in the show. And then they also, Alan Yang gave a really cool acceptance speech where he encourages the Asian American parents of the world to just a couple of you, please give your kids a camera instead of a violin.
And so it's a couple other things. It's Rami Malek.
Yeah,
is that how you say his name?
Rami Malek.
For Mr. Robot, how is it said? He is the first person of color in 16 years to win Best Actor in a Drama. Mm. So, because it's been 16 years, so it's been a lot of probably like Bryan Cranston and that kind of thing happening. So, Bryan
Cranston, John Hamm.
That was a good thing. I felt like we got some fresh winners this year, like Sterling K. Brown. Well, first of all, American Crime Story.
Right.
People versus OJ. I mean, they cleaned house. Yeah. They, won a lot of stuff.
They apologized to Marcia Clark.
But I really, really love Sterling K. Brown and Courtney B. Vance's speech. You could tell they were just genuinely excited to be there. Both of them shouted out their wives. They both quoted Jay-Z. It was a nice night, in a sense that you saw what things could be. You know what I'm saying? Or what they should be. or what they will look like in the future, or whatever you want to say. That happy thing that happened, it made me a little happy.
I'm gonna bring it down a little bit. I like where you're going. Hooray for Hollywood.
Hooray for Hollywood.
But there's a couple other things to focus on. One is Jeffrey Tambor's second win in a row for his role in Transparent. He made the statement, you know what? I hope I'm the last straight male who plays a transgender woman on TV. Mm-hmm. And we're going to come back to that next week because that's enough. That opens a can of worms that we want to explore.
Right.
So we're going to put a pin.
We're going to put a pin in. I got my opinion. I got my opinion, but
in that and say that's something that bears drilling into.
But what I will say before Darren cuts me off and wraps us up, Jeffrey Tambor is great on Transparent. So regardless of what I say next week, I love Jeffrey Tambor in Transparent. I really do love Jeffrey Tambor in Transparent.
He does say he hopes he's the last male actor. He doesn't say he wants to give his role up, which is fair. And then the other side of it is, the other thing that we're going to put a pin on and hold on until next week is that earlier this month there was the study out of USC from the Annenberg Center regarding the numbers of people involved, both in front of the camera and behind the camera. Because look, we've been talking about all actors as we're doing this, and the numbers are not so good if we start looking at directors, et cetera, et
right.
cetera.
And speaking of the Emmy, since we're in the Emmy portion, the women who won the Best Director Emmys both went to women. Best Director in a drama. Well, I guess it's a comedy since it's Transparent. So Jill Soloway won Best Director. And then Susan Byer for Night Manager won in limited series as well because she spoke. So women directors did take home 2 Emmys on Sunday as well.
We're going to come back to that more next week.
Yes.
The plight of women directors. And the other thing I would say, why must I bring this down? Hooray for Hollywood. This is the most diverse Emmys ever. In the shadow of the Oscars So White hashtag. Like, we're in the same year that those conversations are going on. So, yeah, we had a more diverse pool of people celebrated in the Emmys, but it's in the same year that we had no people of color nominated in the acting categories in the Oscars. So think on that. So
that means film do better.
Well,
TV,
I mean that
stay better.
TV is leading the way. We can
yes.
we can make that assumption or that conclusion. And then there's more work to do in both probably. And
we'll talk about that. You're right. You know what? I'll save it for next week. Yeah, because there's another article that actually goes great with that. So yeah.
Have we done enough teasing for comeback next week?
Whatever.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much for listening. I am Darren Setti.
And I am Kirk Moore.
Find us on Twitter. I am at Digital Darren, which is spelled DERON for some reason.
And I am Kirkwright79. And it's spelled the way it sounds.
It's spelled exactly as you think it should be spelled. Congratulations to you on your properly spelled name. All right, thanks, everybody. This has been Hollywood Inclusive.
We're out.
Good talk.